We need to shift gear to a new format. This is what we think. Since independence, this is the format we've been using. And you know the old cliche, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. There is no different result here. So what we think the president should do, and any future president, is to let the finance minister do his budget statement with all this
sector by sector
analysis in it. And then the SoNA is devoted to a vision. Where do you think the country is? Where do you think it will be next year and the year after? We think there is a need to shift to that kind of SoNA, because other countries are doing it that way. That way the president can be relieved of not being tasked to read something that is 36 pages long. And it takes half of his day, or literally all of his
and
day.
Some of it sometimes openly misleading.
Yes.
Like the issue on this $40 million thing. I mean, he actually endorsed it on Thursday, and on Friday he sacked the permanent secretary.
Aside from being a report card, we think this new approach that we are suggesting should be backed by the president insisting on the line ministries and their line ministers and permanent secretaries to do these sector reviews, put them on their websites for people to access. That gives people the transparency, the information that they need sector by sector. And as we said, some of the things that are said in the SoNA are not really representative of what is actually happening on the ground. The 5% growth rate, the 90% of Gambians having access to water. When I heard that, I actually jumped because I know the water situation in the country, and it's all over the country. It's not just in the rural and urban areas.
We are going through, another nightmare in London corner. With regard to water.
So we think the SoNA, if the new format is considered, and I can tell you, if a UDP government comes, that's the format we are going to take. We're not going to waste our president's time.
You're saying if. Have you moved from when to if?
No, I'm saying when.
Okay. I heard if.
Yes, you heard if. It's a slip of the tongue, but the intention is to say when we come in 2027, you're going to see a shift in this kind of direction. Well, we think the SoNA should focus on real-time challenges Gambians are facing. Now, one of those challenges, we talk about inflation and the price of goods, but the challenge is the general cost of living in the country, from housing, healthcare, water, electricity, medicines. These are all issues that Gambians are seized with, and the president's SoNA does not address those things. Now, when you talk about the sectors, it's abstract. The average person on the street cannot relate to that. When you say your economy is growing at 5% per annum, it's abstract. I cannot, or you cannot, or somebody else on the street cannot relate that 5% GDP growth rate to what is in his or her pocketbook. But more importantly, when he goes to the marketplace, the things that pocketbook is able to afford. So these people cannot relate to these things.
I was just observing in the previous program that water has gone from $140 per pack to $175 minimum.
$175, minimum. And it's because of taxation. It's the taxes. So we need to address the general cost of living conditions of Gambians. Maybe you heard Mama Kande talk about what is happening in the legislature. In his audio, you could hear him say Gambians are hungry. They go to bed hungry. They wake up hungry. Now, the usual detractors are going to say that is not true. But the reality is some people go to bed hungry. And a large swath of our population cannot afford 3 square meals a day. So we need to address
Mama Kande makes that point, the 3 square meals per day point.
We need to focus the economy to take care of those things. And when that happens, during Jawara's time, he used to say, if you give Gambians their 3 meals, their water, their electricity. They don't care who comes into their government because that is what their needs are. And that is why he focused on those items rather than on the infrastructure. Now, the second thing that we think he should have talked about is the general unemployment in the country, especially youth unemployment. And I heard you say somebody commented about disappointing.
Pasamba Jawa.
Yes, Pasamba commented that the drug menace. Now, if you live in the Manjai, Kotu, Kololi, Senegambia, Bijilo, Kersering axis, you know our youths are being decimated. Sometimes I sit and I say, I don't think we have a future with this many young people being strung on drugs, and the government is not declaring a drug state of emergency. Beats me. And then these guys, the PIU guys, the drug and law enforcement guys, they are trying to mitigate this menace. But what you see is very cosmetic. They don't have the resources to deal with these things, I don't think. They can come and mount a checkpoint at Kololi Tavern, at that junction. For the time that checkpoint is there, things quiet down. The minute they leave, it's
well, they quiet down only as far as those who are coming,
yes,
up to that point
up
are
to that
concerned.
Point and
but
are
others
concerned.
who are, in the corners.
So it's a huge national disaster in the making, because it's now going all over the country. It's not just in the urban areas. It's in the peri-urban areas and in some large settlements in the rural areas. It's becoming a problem. So we always say the government needs to address this drug issue in a state of an emergency, declare a state of emergency, make resources available to the police, and deploy the military if necessary to back up the police so that you deal with these drug dealers, because they've become too powerful. Just ask anybody in these areas that I just mentioned, and they will tell you it's a nightmare to be in those areas. And those are the prime real estate areas in the country.
It has to be worrisome that every day one newspaper or another is reported the D-League seizing drugs, and we never get to know what happens to those drugs, especially. So D-League is happy to announce that, we've caught Peter and Lare, carrying drugs. But what happens to the drugs that were seized from Peter and Lare?
That's the penultimate question. The third issue, this water and electricity. Now, the president, I think, says 90% of us enjoy clean water. I don't think 90% of the population enjoys clean water, but I stand to be corrected. The point UDP is trying to make is that water and electricity are vital resources to our national development. We need to fix them. This water electricity thing has been going on since Jawara's time. And it has never been fixed.
It's a 47-year-old
problem.
If not older even.
Now, Jawara could not fix it. Jame could not fix it. Barrow is 8 years in his tenure, and we still have the same problems.
Despite a lot of money being thrown
into Nawek. Yes. Now, the new phenomenon that I am seeing in Nawek is this low voltage that they give. You could be sitting in your room, your light will dim like it's a lit candle.
They must be going at Nawek. There he goes again, Lare.
Well, yes. This time I'm going to spare them the pain to just say that this low voltage is destroying people's appliances. If I tell you how many appliances I've had to replace, and one of them even had a voltage stabilizer on it, but the voltage stabilizer just goes boop, and it is gone.
Sorry to rush you. We need to move along because we are already encroaching into someone else's time.
Healthcare and medication in the health centers and in the hospitals. Now, it is important for the president to realize that people don't have adequate access to healthcare. And when they do go to these facilities, they don't have the medication necessary. And I think this is vindicated by the fact that the chairman of the board of Francis
Edward Francis Mott Teaching Hospital. You mean the former chairman or the current one?
The former chairman.
Adam Sala, Dr. Sala.
Yes, Dr. Sala.
Or the Professor Adam
made mention of this. And then the CEO went on to say, we have only 2 ambulances for RVTH. So the question then becomes, where are those Turkish ambulances that the president showed us at McCarthy Square? Where are they? The fourth issue is bringing the new constitution back. We think the president didn't pay a whole lot of attention to that. He says he may. It may be brought back to a referendum.
Probability rather than certainty.
Certainty. So he needs to be certain with us to say, at this time we are going to have a referendum on the constitution. The question then becomes, what form of the constitution will he submit to us? Is it the version that was submitted to him unedited, or it is an edited version that he is going to put to people for referendum?
Point number 5?
Point number 5 is corruption. I think he mentioned corruption twice. Anybody who is in this country and can see for his or her own eyes knows that corruption is becoming endemic. It's a system-wide issue. For the president, with all these audit reports that have been produced by the previous Auditor General and the ones that are now being produced by the National Audit Office, for us to not treat corruption as an epidemic like lack of water and electricity, I think it's a missed opportunity. The president needs to seriously talk about corruption, but to be seen to be doing something about it.
His new information minister dismisses talk of corruption as baseless.
Well, yes, but he used to...
And he goes, it's flawed. It's baseless.
Well...
It's false.
He used to criticize it. That's all I'm going to say in response to that. Maybe in a future life, somebody is going to make me go back on my words, but I can tell you that corruption is endemic and it is system-wide. It is systemic. And the president needs to know that, because people in the rural areas now will tell you, you don't need to define corruption for me. I know what corruption is. And when you talk about dollars, they say, okay, so you multiply that by some. That's how smart our people are in the rural areas, who are putting 1 + 1 together on this corruption issue. Now, the issue of how to put in place a reform package that can cover the entire public sector, rather than doing it piecemeal. You take care of the president. And I'm talking about just emoluments.
Emoluments, okay.
They are doing that by piecemeal. Mm-hmm. UDP is saying, why don't you do a public sector management reform program which covers all the sectors, all the ministries and all the departments? You reform them and you start signing performance contracts with them. They're going to say we are signing performance contracts with them, but nobody knows who is meeting their performance targets and who is not. At least I don't have that kind of information in the public domain.
Well, the Standard is reporting today that SSHFC are paying bonuses for meeting their performance targets.
Yes.
But with SSHFC, I don't need to have any financial background to see the income of SSHFC go up every year.
Yeah.
Because, people pay automatically.
Yeah. I have these audit reports. These are just recent releases by the Auditor Generals, and SSFC is one of them. Mm-hmm. But it's is
it a favorable report or?
No, it's not favorable, but it's a performance audit. Mm-hmm. It's not a audited financial statement. So the Auditor General need to start giving us audited financial statements, because as far as I'm concerned, their last major audited financial statements came in 2022.
Oh, wow.
So there is a backlog of
2 years?
Yeah, 2 years going on. It's not their fault, though, because the National Assembly is involved. But I'm saying these performance budgets, budget management for civil aviation, social security, performance audit report, Gambia Ports Authority, the same, performance audit reports. And then you have Ministry of Lands, documentation of the Ministry of Lands. Documentation. Mm-hmm. Nobody is talking about the kind of activities that are going on in terms of auditing their financial.
And you've printed out copies of all these reports just to prove that you are arming yourself with official information.
Yes, this is not hearsay. And I have over 40-something audited reports on a flash drive. Every time they come out, I download and I look at it very seriously. Now, we have to commend them for doing this, but this is not enough. They need to give us audited financial statements for us to know the kind of mismanagement that is going on. Now, finally, the aim of UDP is to institute a government that is transparent, that is accountable, that can withstand the rigors of probity. And for that to happen, we have to have an honest government. A government that tells it like it is. Now, if this government can start shifting its focus to that area, because most of the time when you talk to people, they have no idea what is happening in government. The information that is given is given rather grudgingly, for lack of a better description. People are not fully equipped to talk about these issues because the information is not there to equip them to talk about it. Those of us who have access to these things are still in the dark because, for example, I would like to see audited financial statements for this thing. Now, Port Authority, just one unit of the Port Authority in the last audit, they lost about $600 million to that. Other audited statements are matters of fact. We've talked about those here. No need to go back on them. But the bigger point is the government should do a better job informing people. And I have a suggestion. And the suggestion is the messaging that we have. You see, in communication, you are a communications person. For the communication to be credible, the messenger has to be credible. That's a basic fact of communications. I mean, your message stands the rigors of scrutiny because you are credible. If you are not credible, if you are not a credible messenger, it doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
So government needs to be seized to that. Now, spinning things is not going to help because people are aware of these things. They laugh at sometimes when you see certain things where certain individuals come to platforms like yours and you see the comments in the section. You realize that people are actually saying, these guys, they think we are fools. Yeah. We know what is happening. And I think they should be seized with that.